Deciding when to retire, it's probably one of the biggest questions we ever face, right? It's this huge mix of money, your health, and, well, just feeling ready. So how in the world do you know when the time is actually right? Well, that's what we're going to tackle today. We're going to walk through a really clear framework to help you find your answer.
I mean, who hasn't woken up on a Monday morning staring at the ceiling and just thought, why am I not retired already? Come on, we've all been there. But at some point, that little joke you tell yourself, it starts to feel a bit more serious. You have to start actually listening to that question.
And look, it's true, right? Working another year, maybe two, it can always pad your savings, give you a little more security. But the other side of that coin is, well, none of us are getting any younger. Sooner or later, you have to make the call and decide when it's time to step into that next big chapter of your life. And that's exactly what this simple framework is for. These 6 questions are designed to give you some real clarity and help you figure out if that time is now. Okay, so let's dive in. And we're going to start with the most important person in this whole equation, you. The first couple of questions here are all about your personal happiness and your health, because let's be honest, that's the real foundation of a good retirement. So question number 1, just think about this for a second. Have you been deferring your life? Are you constantly pushing your dreams, your hobbies, that big trip you've always wanted to take, pushing it all off for someday? Waiting for a future that, if we're being honest, isn't guaranteed for any of us. There's this great saying, there are 7 days on the calendar, and someday isn't one of them. And that really hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? Someday isn't a real day. And if we're not careful, our bucket list just becomes this storage unit for dreams that we never actually live out. And a big reason this happens is because a lot of us fall into a really common, kind of dangerous trap in our thinking. This trap, it's called binary thinking. It's this idea that life is split in 2 neat little phases. You work hard now, and then you'll enjoy life in retirement. But see, that forces you to choose between work and enjoyment. It's one or the other. The happiest folks I know, they're the ones who figure out how to live a both-and life. A life where they can work and pursue their passions at the same time. So if your job makes that feel absolutely impossible, and you constantly feel like your real life is on hold, well, that's a pretty strong signal that it might be time for a big change. Okay, on to question number 2. And this one is absolutely critical. Is your health suffering? I mean, a long career, it can take a real toll on your body and your mind. And often, it happens in these little ways we don't even notice, until one day, bam, it's a chronic problem. I'll give you a personal example. I've got this knot under my right shoulder blade. It's been there for so long, I've actually named it after an old boss of mine. And I can trace its existence 100% back to using a computer mouse for something like 30 years. It sounds like a small thing, right? But it's this constant physical reminder of the cost of work. And of course, it's not just shoulder knots. We're talking about things like sleep issues, high blood pressure, bad posture, anxiety. The list just goes on and on. Think about it. Our work culture often encourages us to grab a quick, unhealthy lunch and skip that walk or trip to the gym. And here's the kicker. These aren't just quality of life things. Chronic health problems can turn into one of the biggest, most shocking expenses you'll face in retirement. So if you look in the mirror and your health just isn't where you want it to be, maybe it really is time to step away and finally put your energy into feeling better. Okay, so that covers our own life and well-being. Let's move on. Now we're going to look at how your work life trickles out and affects the people you care about most. Your family and your friends. So question number 3 is this. Is it impossible to work less? Because before we jump straight to the idea of full retirement, it's really worth asking, could you just scale back a bit? Is there some kind of middle ground between going full tilt, 50 hours a week, and working 0 hours a week? And you really get 2 main ways to think about this. Option 1 is a formal reduction. You talk to your company about maybe shifting to part-time or seeing if they have a phased retirement program. These can be fantastic, but let's be real, not every company offers them. So that brings us to path number 2, a personal reduction. This is where you just decide to, do less. You just stop going above and beyond. You stop coming in early, you leave right at 5 o'clock, you stop checking emails at night. You set those boundaries yourself. Now, if you're thinking about your job and realize that neither of those options feels possible, then yeah, full retirement starts to look like the only real choice. All right, question number 4. And this one really gets to the heart of it all, doesn't it? Do you wish you had more time for your family and your loved ones? Are you missing out on grandkids' birthdays, anniversaries, just feeling a little disconnected from the people who mean the most to you? There's an old saying that goes, you can have anything, but you can't have everything. And that just perfectly sums up the trade-off here. We only get 24 hours in a day. That's it. And every single hour you give to your career, well, that's an hour you can't give to your spouse, your kids, your grandkids, or your best friends. It's simple math. So if you find yourself constantly, day after day, just wishing you had more time for them, that's a huge, flashing sign that your priorities are probably shifting.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit. We've talked a lot about the why you might want to retire. Now we need to talk about the what. Because here's a really important idea. You can't just retire from a job, you have to retire to a new life. And that's what this next section is all about, having a plan.
And here's question number 5. Do you know what you're going to do? It sounds like such a simple question, but believe me, this is where a lot of new retirees really get stuck. If you don't have a good answer for how you're going to spend all those new hours in your day, you might want to hit the pause button on retiring and figure that part out first.
Let me tell you a quick story. Back when I was in college, I was on a cycling team. And there was this one house on our route that had a dog. And every single time we rode by, this dog would come flying out of the yard, barking and chasing us, and we'd always joke around and wonder, what would that dog even do if he ever actually caught one of us? Well, one day, my friend Mark found out. He was a really strong rider, but this dog was just relentless. And sure enough, the dog nips his ankle, and they both go tumbling into the grass. And as Mark is sitting there, catching his breath, he looks over, and the dog is just as confused and disoriented as he is. It had spent its whole life chasing the cyclists, and now that it finally caught one, it had no idea what to do next. Its whole expression just screamed, "Now what?" And you know what? That is exactly how so many people feel on their first day of retirement. See, this is why having a plan is so important. Without one, retirement can feel anxious or lonely, even a little depressing. But if you have a really clear idea of how you're going to spend that newfound freedom, maybe it's hobbies or volunteering or spending a ton of time with family, then you're ready. You're ready to move on to the final and, let's face it, most practical question of them all. And here we are, at the final section, running the numbers. This is the last crucial piece of the puzzle. This is where we get down to brass tacks and make sure this dream of retirement can actually become your reality.
So question number 6, the big one. Can you retire? And what I mean by that is, have you actually sat down and run the numbers? Have you figured out if you have enough money to support the life you want to live for the rest of your life? This means really digging in, estimating your expenses, adding up all your sources of income like savings, Social Security, pensions, and making absolutely sure the math works. And listen, if you haven't done this yet, now is the time. Please do not even think about putting in your notice until you have a solid answer to this question.
Now, when it comes to getting this kind of financial clarity, you really have 2 great options. The first one is to hire a professional. You can find a financial planner who can build a really comprehensive, detailed plan just for you. The second option is to do it yourself. And honestly, there are so many excellent tools online these days, retirement calculators and resources that can walk you through mapping out your expenses, your income, and figuring out a safe withdrawal strategy. The most important thing is to just choose the path that makes you feel the most confident and comfortable.
Just a quick tip though. If you do decide to hire someone, it is really important that you look for a fee-only fiduciary. It sounds complicated, but it's not. All that means is that person is legally required to act in your best interest, not in their own. It's a simple way to make sure the advice you're paying for is truly for your benefit. So there you have it. We've walked through all 6 of these questions, covering your personal life, your work, your plans for the future, and of course, your finances. So now let's just put it all together. So here it is, your yes checklist for retirement. And as I go through these, just think about your own honest answers. Number 1, are you deferring your life? 2, is your health suffering because of work? 3, is it really impossible for you to work less? 4, do you truly wish you had more time for your family? 5, do you actually know what you're going to do with all that time in retirement? And finally, number 6, can you financially make it all work? If you've been sitting there nodding your head and saying yes and yes and yes, then I think the answer here is becoming pretty clear. If you answered yes to all 6 of those questions, then my friend, it just might be time. It might be time to write that notice, shake some hands, and go and enjoy the amazing life that you have worked so hard to build. Hey, if you found this helpful, we'd really appreciate it if you'd like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Retirement Finance Explained. We're all about providing simple and clear guidance on retirement, savings, and your financial security. Thanks so much for watching.